All I can say is, wow.
Hey Zay, what you cooking, bruh?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Ins and Out D podcast. It is your boy DT Sensei with another episode of the Ins and Out D podcast. So, this is kind of a different episode, I would say. Not talking Commanders today. We will talk about Commanders. So, for those that we did not have a chance to get an episode last week, due to time constraints and other things to take care of on. But rest assured, we will be up here on Wednesday to discuss the Vikings game, which was absolutely bad. But also another thing about this channel is, I'm very big on college football, and of course, I see you got the hoodie on. I'm an Ohio State fan, and the college football playoff bracket dropped yesterday. The final one dropped yesterday, and there's a lot to discuss on my reaction. For those that do know, I am on the podcast, Enters the Lab podcast that talks college football and the NFL. For the past couple of weeks, if you've been watching that channel, past couple of weeks, we have been getting into the debate about the college football playoff rankings. Where teams are ranked at. We talked about certain teams, a certain amount of team conferences, things like that, and it has been a very good couple of weeks, debating about who's going to get in the college football playoffs. And, we're at this point where, if we grown from the 14 playoffs to now we're in the 12 team playoffs. And of course, both Ohio State has won both in the 14 and the 12 team. So I'm about to pull up the bracket real quick. We won't have a lot of conversations about it because my initial reaction to the ranking yesterday, I had a lot of ahs. And I was a lot of wows. I was in a group chat with C. Henry, J. Mick, Stoogs. They were throwing out the names and stuff of the teams that made it, and I was just like, what? Not only they made it, but what word they were placed, and we're about to discuss that. But you ever get a chance, please click like and subscribe to the channel for Commanders content, NFL content, and I think I'm going to start doing more college football content up here. I literally put that in the bio and stuff every day. But I love college football, man. I know a lot of people, with the state of the sport, how it is now, it's making people, get away from it. But there will be another video about that too, how we can fix the sport. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and talk about the final, and I mean the final bracket. So this is the final 12 team bracket. And I have a lot of thoughts on this. The first thought from the Ohio State side of it is I'm very disappointed. Ohio State on Saturday, because they dropped the egg on Indiana, and Indiana came in, was the better football team, well coached, defensive front. They won both sides of the line of scrimmage. Fernando Mendoza, absolutely stunning quarterback. Obviously, from that game, he's definitely going to win the Heisman Trophy and potentially be the number one pick or the first quarterback off the board for any NFL franchise this upcoming draft, this draft season. Ohio State lost this game, and very disappointed. I understand that, coming into the game, I was very confident, but another part of me was like, coming off the win against Michigan, Brian Hartline, taking a head coaching job at the University of South Florida. And then potentially now just hearing that Matt Patricia was being pursued by Penn State University for their head coaching job. So I'm not going to make excuses for distractions and stuff because at the end of the day, they're supposed to play. And of course, this is Ohio State. You're going to have guys being poached from your roster, whether it's transfer portal or coaching staff wise. Ohio State just didn't play their style of play. It looked very much like 2024 Michigan game and lost by the exact same score, 13-10. I'm more disappointed in that it was a game we could have won. I'm not really disappointed, honestly. You always want to win the Big Ten championship. That's the expectation every year is to beat Michigan, win the Big Ten championship, and win the national championship. The national championship is not out the window. Still can win the national championship. Just it'll be another year wait for the Big Ten title. But shout out to Indiana, man. Indiana showed out. Kirk Cincinnati is arguably completing one of the greatest tasks in college football we have ever seen. He's taken a program that has more losses in their history than any other program, and he has made them a playoff contender and probably a national title contender in 2 years in the Big Ten Conference with Ohio State, with Oregon, with these other programs as well. So shout out to Kirk Cincinnati, man. Much deserved win. And of course, they're the number one seed in this playoff seeding and bracket. And I think the biggest surprise for me is Ohio State dropped to 2. And think I have a couple of theories for that. One would be, one, the game was absolutely good and it was close. Ohio State didn't lose by 10, 15, 17 points. They lost by 3 points. And then I think the other thing is Ohio State was one of the best teams in the country for multiple weeks since the beginning of the first week of the season, since the Texas win. And I think that's the logic going into it. I've seen a lot of people project Ohio State to be at 3 in the third bracket, but nevertheless, 2 is not bad. It doesn't even matter anyway, bracket wise. But I know a lot of people were saying, well, the first bracket they're going to be playing the likes of 9 to 8, which we'll get into that discussion later because there was potentially a team that we will be talking about later that was going to be into that bracket. So then we look at, of course, number 2, Ohio State falls to 2. Georgia, shout out to Georgia. Lady EJ, they are big Georgia fans, diehard fans. Georgia, as I projected and predicted, Georgia was going to beat Alabama for the SEC championship. They get the 3rd seed and they lead and they have a automatic bid because they won their conference championship. But they were going to get in even if they did lose. Probably fall out though. Then Texas Tech represent the Big 12 with another big blowout win over BYU. Then this is where things start to get interesting. So Oregon had an idle week after they beat Washington the week before. They did not play in the Big Ten Championship due to their loss against Indiana. And they had a bye week, and now they get a home game of the first round against JMU, which is one of the group of 5 teams. Then the next you have at number 6, Ole Miss. Stayed in the same place just like last week. Stayed in the same place this week. Even without head coach Lane Kiffin, who was now left and gone to LSU. They get in their bracket against a group of 5 team. Then the next team we have is Texas A&M, who also had a idle week as well. But they lost to Texas, which took them out of the SEC championship. It would have been a Texas A&M versus Alabama matchup in the SEC championship. But because of the loss to Texas, Georgia takes their spot, which gives them an opportunity to rest their guys during the bye week for the college football playoffs. And then we get to Oklahoma. Oklahoma had a bye week after beating LSU the week before. the championship games, and once deserved. This Oklahoma team is absolutely fierce, especially on the defensive side. John Mateer, he got off to a hot start. Then after the surgery, he's kind of been very, very up and down. So hopefully they can try to get this offense clicking come playoff time, because they're kind of like the Iowa of the SEC, respectfully. And now this is where it gets funny, man. So the biggest debate for the past couple of weeks have been literally, in my opinion, from 9 to 12. I know a lot of people going to say 8 to 12, but really it's 9 to 12. And those teams were Alabama, Notre Dame, Miami, and I believe Vanderbilt, even though I knew for the jump Vanderbilt wasn't going to get in. But the top three teams that we need to know was Alabama. Oh, BYU as well. Alabama, BYU, Notre Dame, and Miami. Those four teams were on the bubble in terms of the college football playoffs, with also the ACC championship game that was on the line, because Miami is in the ACC, but because of their two losses, they got them kicked out of the ACC championship game, which led to Virginia getting in. But who did Virginia have to play? They had to play Duke. Why is that important? Because Duke was 7-5 at the time. Duke won Saturday. And it sent the college football committee into complete chaos. And this is where things get absolutely funny. Because I mentioned to you that Alabama lost to Georgia. Not only did they lose, they got embarrassed by Georgia. They got dog walked by Georgia, figuratively and literally. 28-7. Excuse me. 28-7. In a neutral site game in the SEC championship. BYU got dog walked in the Big 12 championship. What makes that funny is BYU already lost to Texas Tech, and they got dog walked by them the first time, and they got dog walked the second time. So automatically they were out. But here's where things get funny, man. Because the ACC championship, Duke beats Virginia in overtime. BYU lost to Texas Tech. Alabama lost to Georgia in the SEC championship by 21 points. You would think this would be a big plus for not only Miami, but Notre Dame, because Notre Dame lost to Miami week 1 of the college football season. And of course, the group of 5 teams, they won their respective conferences. JMU won their conference championship game. Tulane won their conference championship game. But you know what happened? The committee still put Alabama at 9. Miami, who has been behind Notre Dame for the past couple of weeks, even when they've been had the head-to-head. Now, listen to what I said. Even when they've been had the head-to-head matchup advantage over Notre Dame, they get in the 10th slot. So now you have Tulane and JMU to fill out the last 2 spots, because of the ACC Conference Championship game. Virginia, which was ranked around the 16s, they lost to Duke. They lost to a 7-5 Duke football team. Now, mind you, a lot of their losses came from non-conference games. They were 6-2 in the ACC. Well, 7-2 now since they won the ACC championship. So, guess who's the team that got left out of the college football playoff, people? It was Notre Dame. Notre Dame got left out. Now, do I absolutely care about Notre Dame? No, not really. I past couple of years, playing that we built kind of slight rivalry, I would say, even though we have beaten the dog doo doo out of them. But this is where I have a problem with the committee and a lot of things. Teams playing their conference championship games. So if someone drops 40 on your head, you still gonna put them in? I thought at some point it wouldn't matter how you look in games too. That's where the eye tests come in. Alabama has not looked good in the past month of the football season. And I'm talking about November, where it really matters. They barely beat LSU. Matter of fact, scratch that. Let me rephrase that. They didn't really look good against LSU. They won the game still. They lost to Oklahoma when Oklahoma came to Tuscaloosa. They had a FCS game the very next week. Then you play in the Iron Bowl against a 1-7 Auburn team in their own conference. And we're going to glaze Alabama because they won the Iron Bowl by 27-20? Are you kidding me? Then on top of that, they get into the SEC championship game and they get mollywopped by Georgia. They can't run the football. They couldn't protect Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson has not looked the same outside of the first couple of months when he was on a heater. Alabama does not look good. And yes, did they win some key games? Absolutely. But let's talk about at least like some of these key games. Okay, we're really glazing conferences to a lot of extent. And I have a problem with that. The SEC, the SEC, the SEC. Did y'all know they had Missouri ranked for majority of the season and they didn't even have a ranked win? Yet they still kept ranking them? Glaze. Texas was out here complaining about trying to get in the college football playoffs, but they lost to Florida. What? Alabama and Miami share the same common opponent, Florida State. Florida State beat Alabama 31-17. When they play Miami, Miami dog walked them. Come on now. We have former Alabama players saying this team should not be in the college football playoffs, but we still put them in. Now, Notre Dame, I get it. They did lose Miami. Absolutely. They did lose to Texas A&M at Notre Dame. But in both of those games, the average point of their losses was by a total of 4 points. It was 27-24 against Miami. If I'm not mistaken, it was 42-41 against Texas A&M. Both of these teams are ranked and are currently in the college football playoffs. And then before you even get up here and talk about these schedules and stuff, hey, you play who's on your schedule. But I also have a problem when some of these teams play these FCS schools like Mercer in November. But I just seen Oregon had to beat USC in a game that really mattered for their college football playoffs chances to get in. Or Ohio State had to play in the game where a lot of people had questions about can they beat Michigan. or Michigan is going to spoil the fun. But we're glazing Auburn because it's the Iron Bowl. Because when they play at Jordan Hare Stadium, magic happens. Come on, bro. Auburn has not been the same football team since probably 2013 and 2017 when they had Bo Nix. I think Jarrett Stidham, one of those guys. Come on, man. And what makes this more mad about this is automatically, I'm not even trying to defend Notre Dame, which it sounds like I am, but I do have a problem because I really feel like Notre Dame should have been in the playoffs. Regardless of who they played, they have been one of the best teams. I don't want to sit up here and watch Alabama get dog walked by the same team they lost to, but this time in Norman. I mean, come on. They can't run the football. Ty Simpson has been a shell of himself. I much rather would see Notre Dame, C.J. Carr, Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, and Marcus Freeman and their defense go against John Mateer and Oklahoma. And then the other problem I have with the college football playoff too is I understand the G5 group of 5 thing. I get it. But let's be real, bro. Let's be real. Do y'all really want to make money? Can we get some real matchups? Can we get some real matchups? Now, one thing what would help me, I wouldn't have been as mad about Alabama not missing the playoffs if you had put them somewhere around like 12 or something. Then we'll be like, okay, this is the first team to have 3 losses and they still make it. But then you have Miami and then you have Notre Dame, man. Play against an Oregon or something. Play against the 5th or 6th. Play against the 5th or 6th seed. Like, come on. Like, dog, I know, and I'm a VA guy. James Madison, I'm high for you guys. But, bro, Oregon at Austin Stadium? Come on, man. Now, Tulane might be a slight different story. Tulane, I feel like they might give Ole Miss a game, but then eventually Ole Miss will probably pull away. But college football playoff committee, do y'all really want to make some money? Let's have some real matchups. Let's have some of these dream scenarios where these teams that we all love go to these places that they have probably never been for or will never schedule, but they have to play in these playoff games in games that really matter. Let's think about that. And then my other thing is, and this is very big. This is very big for the sport. It's big for me because now everybody's going to be not only talk about the Notre Dame thing where you need to get in the conference. And I disagree with that. They don't need to be in the conference. I just want the committee to be real. Be real for the jump. Don't have Notre Dame in front of Miami for almost 2 months, I believe. And then when we get to the final ranking, you decide, okay, now we're gonna go back and look at week 1 game. No. From the jump, Miami should have been in front of Notre Dame. But also acknowledge Notre Dame has gotten better because there has been a lot of evidence from the past criteria of teams where a team has lost to someone and they still got in the playoff because they have gotten better down the stretch. They got caught on a heater. Like, that's all I care about. And then the biggest problem I'm going to have with this sport is people are going to keep talking about expansion. No, because then we're going to have Like the big problem I already have is a 3-loss team in the college football playoff. We're gonna be arguing with 4-loss teams, bro. Nobody has time for that. Stop it. 8-4 teams, 75. No. That's the problem now. We just think expansion is going to fix everything. Well, maybe the problem is the realignment. The playoffs came after realignments. The 12 team, I would say. 4 power conferences when it used to be 5. Everybody remember the Pac-12? Their last good year was before we went to the 12-team playoff. Had Oregon, had Washington. Washington went to the national championship. They lost to Michigan, though. Maybe that kind of will help. But no. We're going to sit here and say, oh, we need to expand. No. Maybe also we need to fix the academic calendar to extend as well. That might talk about that a little bit more. But there's a lot of stuff going on, man. And I have a problem with. But this right here, JMU versus Oregon, practically a bye week. Ole Miss versus Tulane, that might be a game, but like I said, I think Ole Miss will probably pull away. Bama and Oklahoma. And even if Bama somehow beats Oklahoma, they're not beating Indiana. They're not beating Indiana, bro. Like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing here, bro? What are we doing to this sport? I have a lot of problems, man. And maybe I need to talk. Maybe I need to talk on Enter the Lab podcast this week, and try to voice some of my other frustrations. But I'm all about keeping stuff 100 and being fair. That's the main point I want to get across. So yeah, like okay, you don't think Notre Dame. You don't care about Notre Dame. Okay, that's all. But in my opinion, Notre Dame has been better than Alabama. Now, okay, we can talk about schedule, but that's who you play. At least Notre Dame played 2 comp teams. Give them credit. They schedule against a Miami team that's in the playoff right now. They schedule Texas A&M, and they also beat Texas A&M the year before. Then they come to their crib and beat them by 1 point. Like, so much wrong going on with this, bro. Like, it's like, and I'm always gonna be very non-biased. Like, when it comes to conferences, like I'm not gonna sit here and like hype up the Big Ten. I mean, that's the conference my team plays in. Absolutely. But I'm also going to root for other conferences as well. I'm a local guy in the 757 area, ACC. ACC has not been consistent. James Franklin might change that in a couple of years. That's what they really need, because I don't know what Clemson going on with Clemson. Miami is going to be there talent-wise, but consistency is a problem for them. It's just I want people to be real from the jump. Don't lead people astray. Don't do this. The moment that when they put Notre Dame at 10, I knew there was going to be trouble running amok. And okay, you play in the conference championship game. That means to me, it don't matter about winning a conference championship game. And we already seen evidence of that. Ohio State won the national championship without winning a conference championship. Probably other teams like Georgia and Alabama have won a national championship without a conference championship. But now, when we're in conference championship now, they're not going to punish you for how you play. But there were other teams that got punished for how they played. And they only dropped maybe one spot. And to my knowledge, Alabama dropped maybe one spot. But they look bad, bro. That's all I got to say, man. Look, we're going to be back this week with Enter the Lab podcast. Also, we'll be back with Ins and Out with E podcast. Talk about Commanders, college football, the NFL. Also, tune in tonight for Only the Huddle podcast. Live, we're going to be discussing the Minnesota Vikings game. It's your boy DT Sensei, and I will catch you guys next time. You guys have a good night.